What's up and happy Monday? The snow has melted, but 3 Point Stands is back for another edition. And Roser, it's time to get into the hottest topics from the weekend that was. And the first thing we got to talk about is Justise Winslow. He is back. He played Saturday night against the Phoenix Suns. And it was just great to see him in a Grizzlies jersey because that's really the biggest storyline from that game. I don't think there's anything from that game that we want to talk about besides Justise Winslow.
Yeah, because it's definitely not going to talk about making shots because, I mean, what did he start, like 0 for 9 or something? I mean, it was, definitely some rust, definitely shaking off some cobwebs. But, yes, it was good to see him play. There were a couple, you could tell the chemistry going to take some time. Because there were a couple passes that he threw or passes that players threw to him that the timing just was not there at all. Or they were a little in front or it was a little behind. And so that's just something that's good. That just takes time together on the court for that to get worked out. But it definitely was good to see him. He does exist. He is a real human. He is a real basketball player.
Yeah, and think about it this way. And Justise Winslow and Coach Jenkins gave and credit him for what he was able to do defensively, what he was kind of thrown in the fire with this group. And the Grizzlies, they set so many players that this was a lot of different lineups, a lot of different things that, have to take factor into like the way he kind of started. And he Justise said that in that first half, he just wanted to get that first shot up. And when that three went down, even the limited amount of fans, we all cheered. And then he kind of got into his groove a little bit more, and he was great defensively going up against Devin Booker. For a guy who hasn't played in 13 months, Coach Jenkins said it's only going to be a matter of time before he gets back to normal Justise Winslow. But you got to take the positives from it, and the fact that he got out there, we saw him get out there. It's the month of February. We were all kind of like counting down, like they said this month, like, the days are starting to tick down. And he even talked about it with the pandemic. In that break that the Grizzlies had to go on due to health and safety protocols, that pushed his return back a little bit. But he was nervous, but he was excited to kind of get back out there. And he credited the coaching staff, the organizations for just constantly believing in him and giving him that confidence. And we'll get to see him play tonight against the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, no, can't wait for tonight's game. Also, I have a Hustle game tonight. The Hustle are playing the Raptors 9:05 at 6:30. We'll be on the air at 6:20 on grindcitymedia.com. Hopefully, Kelsey remembers what team she needs to root for in this one, because I know she's a Canadian.
That's true. That's going to be a must-see thing then, just to see how she kind of goes back and forth. And let's now talk about another team in the NBA, the Minnesota Timberwolves. We found out and learned yesterday that the Timberwolves have fired Ryan Saunders, and they have already hired a new head coach. They're going with the Toronto Raptors assistant Chris Finch. The most head-scratching thing about this whole entire thing is that they're hiring someone, in the middle of a season and decided to not look down at Finch at its assistant coaches to maybe promote or just make interim head coach, but to bring in a guy from another team in the middle of the season during a year where you're already going through, and the Timberwolves have gone through a lot this year, to kind of bring in a new person. And the name that's being thrown out there is David Vanderpool, who has been interviewed for several head coaching jobs throughout the couple of years, and did some great work with the Portland Trailblazers. And Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum trying to say, make it make sense. Roser, make it make sense?
Chris Finch and their GM, Gerson Rosas, were together in Houston. I mean, that's Ryan Saunders wasn't good. I can't believe it took him this long. I know why they kept him around as long as they did. Obviously, he is the son of the late, great Flip Saunders, who means a lot to that Minnesota Timberwolves organization. But Ryan Saunders was not a good head coach. Woj was right when Woj said Minnesota will not hire an interim. They will not name an interim coach right away. And then it was like 6-7 minutes later, Shams tweeting that they are hiring Chris Finch permanently. I mean, Woj was right. They didn't hire an interim coach. I mean, they hired a permanent head coach, a permanent replacement. Gerson Rosas, and now more than ever, the front office and the head coach have to be on the same page, and organizations want that. And I think that's why you see Gerson Rosas, who's the GM there, who came from the Houston Rockets. He was like Daryl Morey's right-hand man down in Houston. He took that gig in Minnesota, and he wants to hire somebody to be the head coach that he can have, that he knows he has a good relationship with.
Yeah, I understand people having the relationships, and like it's just a matter of like when you make that move. For it to be in the middle of the season, not during All-Star break, to maybe kind of like, it would help it a little bit more. But you're playing in the midst of playing these games, and you're going to have to keep your same coaching staff to make that type of move and decision just right in the middle of things. Obviously, it's something that the front office must have been talking about for a while now. It wasn't just something that you can just do like that. Just perplexing and very odd. And as you mentioned, you want your coach and your GM and your front office to be on the same page. At some point, you also will hopefully want your players to be on the same page. And so, obviously we're not in that room. We don't know, why the front office went with that decision, or, what went into it leading up to it. But it just seems very just odd the way it all like kind of went down. And obviously, PJ McClellan, Damian Lillard being very vocal on Twitter about, make it make sense. It doesn't make sense that you wouldn't look, at your bench to what you have. Weird, but the Timberwolves have a lot of bigger issues.
I mean, it's not. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. And the truth, I mean, look, that's Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum vouching for their guy. I mean, you remember when David Fizdale got fired and freaking LeBron James and Dwayne Wade are all pissed off on Twitter and everything? Okay, well, guess what? David Fizdale's not a good head coach. Like, we found that out. We found that out with the Grizzlies. We found that out again with the Knicks. Like, he's not a good head coach.
Here's the fact that you have to mention, Rosa. Here's the fact that you have to mention, though. It just seems very odd because, in a time like we are now, and then you've had so many players vouch for David and talking about how a great coach he was and what he did for the Trailblazers and the player development and leadership. And this is a black man. And I'm not going to say that that's the issue, but it's just one of those things that you have to look at. At some point, you have to look at it and say, okay, is that?
No, I look at that as the NFL. It's not the NBA has no issue with hiring African Americans.
I'm just gonna pause there with it and say,
the NBA has never had an issue with hiring minority candidates. They never have. The NFL, yes, it's an issue. If this was the NFL, like, it is puzzling. How does Eric Bieniemy not have a job? Like, I mean, it's puzzling. It doesn't make sense. But I don't think that with the NBA.
I'm just saying this one doesn't make doesn't make a lot of sense.
The guy he's really good friends with, and life is about relationships.
Life can be about life is about relationships, but at some point you got to think about yourself. Like, is this the right move for an organization in the middle of the season? Like I said, you can go. Hold on, you can go with Chris Finch. However, could you not have done that during a break, during the postseason? You're not playing for much. You're not making the playoffs. To make that type of move when you've already gone through so much as a group, where you're not playing well, you're not playing as a collective unit. Now you're going to bring someone in from another team. You're flying someone in just to kind of like say, okay, now adjust. We've been adapting to the pandemic. Now go adjust. It's a very odd thing. It's a very odd thing.
It doesn't matter who they hire. It really doesn't matter until Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell stop being soft. They are what they are. Like, they are. They're soft players. Karl Anthony Towns is SAWFT, soft.
Oh, I'm not even gonna comment on that. I just don't. That's your stance. That is definitely not my stance whatsoever.
Yeah, as a basketball player, I know. I mean, he should be so much better than he is.
No. Okay. Well, look, we have a quick 1 minute left, and I know you want to talk about baseball, about someone making a lot of money.
Yeah, Fernando Tatis Jr. Signed with the San Diego Padres, a.k.a. the San Diego Fathers, for 14 years and $340 million. And the only reason I bring this up is because, one, say whatever you want. When you have kids, put the baseball in their hands. It's just, the money's insane. Have your kids play baseball. The other thing is, Mike Trout's the best player in Major League Baseball. And I asked you this before we started this. You have no idea what he looks like. Just like, I don't know what he looks like. Fernando Tatis is at least like one of the 5 baseball players. I know what the guy looks like. So shout out to him. Get the bag. Get your money.
Well, That's it. That's 3 Point Stands presented by Mountain Dew. We'll see you later.